Today I'd like to speak to you about wholeness, great relationships, and better communication. How many of you have ever been in a relationship? All of us, right? Every interaction we have in some other level is a relationship with somebody else. The question is, how many of you have had a relationship where you experienced bliss and happiness and joy? And how many of you have had relationships that have been manipulative, that have been damaging, and that have left a mark? Okay. So the question that I want to ask today is, where does a relationship start? Or with whom? Okay. A lot of people have relationships where they look for something from somebody else. They have a need or a lack of some sort, something that they would like to get from somebody else. I would like to take us through a completely different view. So I would like you to open your mind and go on a little journey with me. So, Carl Jung was a psychoanalyst and Swiss and a psychiatrist. And he founded our modern psychology, or our models of psychology. Was definitely a big part of it. Okay? He had a look at alchemy, and studied the Hermetic principles from the Kabbalion, and he came up with the concept of male and female inside each and every one of us. Okay? So not so much what we know today is I'm a male, you might be a female, or I'm a male, somebody else is a male, but the male-female concept within each one of us. He called it the anima and animus. Anima, divine feminine. Animus, divine masculine. Each one of these basic archetypes in us have a positive and a negative. The positive side of the anima, the divine feminine, is patience, compassionate, tender, nurturing, intuitive, life-giving, loving, and considerate. Beautiful values to portray. The negative is moody, uncertain, vain, insecure, catty, and hypersensitive. Positive and the negative of the female representation. The divine masculine, positive aspects of the animus: assertive, thoughtful, rational, powerful, courage, objective, honorable, and wise. The negative: ruthless, opinionated, destructive, brutal, reckless, and cold. If we just sit for a moment and think about interactions with other people, how many of these positive and negative aspects have we ever felt when we dealt with other people? How many women can say, when they see a man, that guy was ruthless, that guy was cold, that person was opinionated or destructive? How many men can look at women and say they were moody or uncertain or hypersensitive and sometimes insecure? But then, how many times have you looked at a man, ladies, and have seen these same qualities, negative qualities: insecure, hypersensitive, moody? Okay? So it begs the question, do men also have a female aspect to them? And do females have a male aspect to them? And what would happen if each one of us went in search in ourselves to find our divine masculine and our divine feminine? Carl Jung said that if you merge those two, you will find wholeness. Okay? He studied, or after he studied and came up with this concept, other people have taken this concept and have found in the Toltec systems of Mexico in the Tao, the Chinese Tao, find in shamanism, and find in Tantra that everybody talks about the male and female wholeness inside each and every one of us, regardless if you are male or female. Now, the ideal, from Carl Jung's perspective, he said that the parable in the Bible of Adam and Eve was a representation of what each and every one of us should be looking for in ourselves. It's an inner marriage between the male and the female. Okay? So let's further look at some qualities of a healthy male and a healthy female. A healthy female feels deeply, vibrates with warm, attractive energy. She's powerful, is a magnet. She's the power behind the masculine sword. She is what the masculine holds space for and responds to. Beautiful qualities that I think that each one of us can have and can work on achieving in our lives. The healthy masculine, witness without judgment, create safety, hold space. Qualities are of being and not doing. Stands fully present, one hand on his heart and one hand on his sword. That's quite an important concept. When I meet somebody, standing with my one hand on my heart, one hand on my sword. One hand in love and one hand for protection. That is the way that I believe that have come out of all of these teachings, that we should find wholeness in ourselves and project ourselves forward as we have relationships with other people. The inner marriage of the male and feminine aspect within ourselves can happen through meditation and visualization and searching for your male aspect in yourself and your representation and your female representation. There are various methods of doing that. After finding those two representations in yourself, then it's possible to, in meditation, to work on marrying those two and have an inner marriage between the inner masculine and the inner feminine. Now, mindfulness also helps and brings us a long way, because being mindful of, am I in my masculine archetype or representation or my female representation, will kind of give me guidance as to those first slides that we've seen, the positive aspects and the negative aspects. Okay? Coaching. In coaching, we can look at our values. We can insert new values. So some of these positives that we've seen, if you want to make some of those positives reality in your life, you can always install that through coaching like NLP and so forth. Coaching also helps with becoming more mindful. And as we've seen, that mindfulness can have a big impact on the way that we project. Now, let's say that we do create, or we do try and create wholeness in our life, and we have a divine feminine, divine masculine. The next thing that's very, very important is a healthy boundary that protects the healthy female and the healthy male within you. So when I approach somebody with my one hand on my heart, my one hand on my sword, I need to have healthy boundaries that would keep me safe and help me to project in a positive manner, and then reach the goals that I want to reach. So outside world will have projections, and they will have interactions, lovers, family, friends. Are you protected? Are you whole? My own projections with friends, family, lovers. Are you whole? When you have these interactions with other people, how do you project on them? Are you somebody that can hold space? Are you somebody that might be moody? Somebody that's uncertain? Or are you somebody that if you walk into a room, people will notice you? Notice you for the right reasons. Notice you for the presence that you have, the calmness that you have. Now, when I am whole, and I am working on my positive masculine, feminine aspects, and I meet somebody else, and I have healthy boundaries, and I meet somebody else that are doing the same, a relationship with such a person can be divine and bliss. Are you working on yourself in that manner? Do you know other people in your life that are doing the same? If I'm whole and I meet somebody else that is not, but I have healthy boundaries, and I am mindful, and I have a certain amount of understanding, relationships can be successful, but it will take quite a bit of effort. Mindfulness, patience, and willingness will be super important to make such a relationship work. By being the ever-present whole person, might just get somebody else to lift up and meet you there. Willingness will obviously be a huge part of that. But success in a relationship is possible. What happens when we have an unhealthy person and another unhealthy person come together in a relationship? I know that I've experienced that. Have you? Those relationships are strenuous. Why? They're strenuous because it's manipulative. It's negative and it's damaging and it leaves a mark. If I have healthy boundaries, if you have healthy boundaries, I can say in confidence that you will have less negativity, less damage, and fewer manipulation. But all of that will start with you and finding the wholeness inside. How would wholeness impact your life? In relationships, in business, friendships, and family. Any questions?
Can someone who goes into a relationship healthy, being with someone who's unhealthy, be so affected by that unhealthy person that they themselves have become unhealthy?
It is possible. It depends on mindfulness and obviously your willingness to stay in a relationship like that might not be healthy for you at that stage.
Yeah.
And then communication becomes really important. What happens when somebody challenges my boundaries? I have a certain boundary that keeps me safe. Things that I do want to do, don't want to do. Communication becomes paramount. I can say that this is a boundary for me and this is not the way that I want to do things. Now the willingness will shift to the other person. Are they willing to stay in that relationship? Are they willing to work on themselves?
Yeah.
I can never ever expect of somebody else to change them for me.
Yeah.
They would want to change themselves to have a better relationship with you.
Thank you. Wow.
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
Would you say that your boundaries and your values are the same?
No, I would not. They are connected, but they are not. Your values are those first couple of things on the slides. The values are connected to them. The way that I project myself, the way that things are important for me, the positivity, negativity, or whatever, those are connected to your else, then what will keep me safe and keep those values